Let's talk about the business of the day as it relates to theater with your hosts, Darnell Radford and Mitch Weiss. This is The Business of Theater, a working title. Hey, Mitch.
Hey, Darnell.
I know we're looking for a working title, but we cannot name the podcast The Business of Theater. Spare some change?
Maybe that's the right way to go, or we just call it Lin-Manuel's newest hit musical, and maybe people will throw money at us.
A Lin-Manuel Miranda production. Lin-Manuel Miranda presents. Lin-Manuel Miranda stars in.
That's right. Anything with his name, just slap it. The old joke goes, Joan Rivers had unfortunately not successful Broadway show that she wrote. And she was on a talk show afterward explaining it was an okay experience, but she had figured out how to make sure the next show was a hit. She was calling it Neil Simon's newest hit comedy. And that's what the title would be. And that's how she was sure to get an audience to show up.
Oh. I've got a great idea.
Yeah.
First of all, what are you wearing?
Well, think about it. You have a new musical. I'll call it A Chorus Line Part 2. It doesn't have to have anything to do with a chorus line. You just call it A Chorus Line Part 2. People will show up.
The new class.
Yeah.
The second day of auditions, they could call it A Chorus Line Audition Day 2.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of Joan Rivers, I saw, I guess it was last week or so, that there was an article saying that Joan Rivers was meticulously organized and had left behind a collection of 65,000 jokes typed on cards and cross-indexed.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Crazy. But I think that that's so amazing because I was thinking, I think about this all the time, that back in 2010 or 2011 or so, when I got my first fruit themed product, and I started taking notes digitally,
Mm-hmm.
I realized somewhere down the line, I was like, I'm actually building a database by just capturing all of this. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this right now, but it resonated in such a way that I have to, document it.
Right.
So whether I woke up from a dream and then I, tried to remember as much of it as I could, or I had an idea for a play or a short story or something, I would, draft it and then I was like, now I can go to that space and just type in love, for example, and then everything that references love would show up. I didn't even realize at the time that I was building a database.
Do you still have time to do it?
Yes, I have. I currently have 578 items or notes called writing idea. It's just writing idea : and then whatever, so I could jog my memory. And it dates back, it dates back to 2012, because before that, the product that is now Notes, it was called Stickies. And so there was a bunch of those in Stickies.
The one good thing about theater and theater history, and it's one of the big arguments, since we don't videotape everything, and theater is a live, moving target, Lincoln Center Library has archived so many shows. They, at the time that the unions would never allow any videotape of any theatrical production, Lincoln Center had permission to come in with one camera and archive a Broadway show so that the true history of the staging, it doesn't feel like a movie. You're not going to love watching it, but Lincoln Center has the modern history of the American theater in their archives. At one point, the only people who were allowed to see any of this, you had to prove that you had worked on the production and that you were in the program.
Huh.
And you had to watch it in-house. You had to go to the library and watch it there. No one could take it out. Then they have loosened that. Now you can do it if you're a student and you can show that you're studying something or researching study, but no one can take anything out. You must go to the library. It's phenomenal what's there. I don't know a lot of people who spend the time going because, again, it's usually one camera.
Yes.
Right? So it's not exciting stuff.
Well,
but
I mean, at least
we
you don't
do
have to
need
pay for it.
right, but you're also not allowed to. It's not entertainment per se; it's research. You know.
Yeah. So maybe close your eyes and just listen to it.
Yeah. Anyway, but you do get to see some of the most amazing Bob Fosse, Michael Bennett staging of things. But again, you have to have a reason to go. It's not like the general public can just walk in. And that's a shame. That's a shame. At some point, it becomes history that should just let us in. Anyway, moving right along. The trick to the history and how that informs you youngsters, I'm referring to you. There are shows that did amazing things in the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s that you can't know anything about. You weren't there. And it's a great, there's great pride in saying, I saw something and I remember this. But it would be so much more impressive if we could share it with people nowadays. If there was a way to say, okay, someone can put on a new production of a show, but you can go see the original with the original stars. It just should be available. We have Google. It's time to release these things. It's very expensive, though. See, the reason they don't do it is because you have to pay the actors almost as if they're doing a TV show. So it's a lot of money in addition to the fact that you're paying them for doing the live work. And most producers, unless you're Hamilton or Wicked or, Phantom, they can't afford to throw the money away. And there are investors, and the investors don't want their profits thrown away on history. It's a real shame. Here we go with pure capitalism hurting our art form. Speaking of which, how's the world of nonprofit doing, Darnell?
Meh.
Well, okay, our podcast is now over. You've summed it all up.
That's the business. I'm Darnell Radford. No. Well, right now we are on the heels of a summer solstice, and it is also that time of year where we get a barrage of letters saying, "Did you forget to make your contribution to us? You still have time before our fiscal year ends, and we close our books," which has nothing to do with the donor, but all to do with the organization.
That's right.
So that's what's going on right now. Everybody's winding down and trying to settle as much as they can before everything turns over and becomes a new fiscal year.
And can we throw in our unwanted 2 cents by saying it's disgusting? We have got. I mean, first of all, no one who is an audience member cares that a nonprofit has a fiscal end of year. Who cares? It's like, what shows are you putting on? When are they there? Do I want to come see them? And do I want to support you? And there's been a lot of discussion lately as we come out of the pandemic about just shutting up about the end of the fiscal year. Who cares? If you can't make your nut and pay your bills year round, maybe you shouldn't exist. And I hate to be the big naysayer because I've spent most of my life in nonprofit. It is a really tacky thing to do. There's, I hate to put it that you're supposed to stay within your means. I'm not someone who necessarily believes that. Art needs money, and it has unique problems that can't be done within a pure capitalistic system.
Art isn't
However,
easy.
thank you. Go sing. Yes, here we go. Darnell's singing again. Give us Sondheim. Um, but how
That's
hard
it.
it
They're watching
is.
us.
Yeah. How hard does it have to be? And again, going back to nonprofits, what are they providing us with? If a nonprofit is giving me Camelot, as Lincoln Center is doing, and Lincoln Center is a nonprofit, and it's a lousy production of it, and people don't like it, and they're
I
charging
mean,
hundreds of dollars to go see it, why do I
Hillary and
want to
Chelsea
have,
loved it.
and why do I want to hear them beg me for money after that?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, there's got to be a new method out there. Who do we convince to rethink
Well, for the Lincoln
the
Center,
concept?
hey, remember this neighborhood we displaced? Well, we still need this money in order to keep our facility in this
Well,
neighborhood we
it's not just
displaced.
the facility. Their entire sidewalk is marble.
Yeah.
The entire plaza is marble. And if it
Mm.
cracks, they have to replace marble. And that's expensive and it's gorgeous. Don't get me wrong. I am
Yeah.
totally in
They're like,
awe
we
of Lincoln
created a
Center.
public space. You can't camp here. You can barely lunch here, but it is for everyone. It really is.
Oh God!
It
What do we
serves
do?
our requirement that our compound has to have a percentage of art on the campus.
Yeah, really. Well, and let's take it a step further. I mean, and I don't have the answer to this, of course, but opera, the Metropolitan Opera, the last time I looked into it, each performance of the Metropolitan Opera lost $44,000. Every single performance. Now, opera may be a great art form, but isn't there something wrong with that picture? And I don't know what to do about it because their sets and their they're magnificent, and it takes you to a new place. So that's art. I get it, and they have thousands of seats, so it's not like they're in a tiny building. What do
Yeah.
we do about that? How do we rethink this? And
You know what's interesting?
nobody listening to us really wants to answer that. So go ahead, Darnell.
You know what's interesting? If it takes a village, there should be at least one theater company in every village.
That would be a nice idea. And then that brings you back to the word community. And because there is a thing called commercial theater, which is Broadway, where people are actually trying to make a profit and they charge what they need to break even. So if you have nonprofit theater, what is their purpose if they keep begging you for money? So let's say you pay $30 for a ticket to see a show at a nonprofit, but then they come after you because they need another $150 to break even. So you're still paying $180 a ticket if you give it to them. So how is that different from commercial theater? Except I guess you get a tax write-off. Maybe that's the difference. I don't know. I'm trying to understand this, and no one's explained it to me to my satisfaction.
But thanks to the past, the previous asshat in chief, that write-off doesn't account for much anymore.
Right, that's correct.
Yeah.
But
So
but
I
the,
mean,
the,
you
we
kind of
you look at other countries and they subsidize the hell out of theater. We do not do
mhm.
that in this country. So again, it's sort of like saying, well, to pick up your trash, we're only going to tax you $20 a month, but it actually costs $1,000 a month to do it. So your little community in community A, let's say. So we're actually going to have an extra tax on that community for the other $970. I mean, that doesn't make sense either. You pay for what it needs, and you have
yeah.
to figure out how to do that. And that's, is to me, the goal of theater. I don't know whether we're supposed to ask Hamilton to subsidize all the others. I don't know if the government has to tax us all, and even people who don't want to go to theater pay for it. That's what we do for trash pickup. That's what we do
Well,
for a
and
lot of things.
that's the problem with the political climate right now. There's a lot of whataboutism. Like they were doing the
Mm-hmm.
same thing when it came to healthcare. It was like, well, I don't need I mean, I don't need prenatal care, so why should
Right.
my health insurance include that if I don't need it? And so perhaps there should be some carve out just for me because I'm
Well,
special.
and that's the truth about every school district. The reason when I was in high school, we had 2 years in a row where our budget was on austerity, which meant all the after-school programs were canceled. So we
Mm,
had nothing to do. And the
yeah,
purpose was that there were enough people in town who said, I don't want to pay any more taxes, and I have no say over my state and federal taxes. This is the only place where I can control a school board and vote against taxes. And they took it
mm,
out on their students, their kids' education, because many of the people in town were too old to have kids anymore, or they didn't have any kids. So why should I pay for somebody else's kid? And
yeah,
the Republicans go around calling that socialism, but it's name calling. How do we solve the problem?
mm,
Do we all just say I can't afford to go to Broadway? It's just too expensive, or I can't afford to go to nonprofit because they're going to close if I give them what I can afford. They need a lot more. And that's happening, by the way, already. Center Theater Group in Los Angeles, a phenomenal theater company that's been around forever. They are taking an entire year off because they don't have the finances to break even this year. That's
mm,
unheard of. I know the pandemic killed everybody, but where are the brilliant financial minds in the theater trying to figure this out? Instead, everyone's making excuses. Well, shows cost a lot of money. I'm sorry, they don't cost a lot of money. You just chose to hire more people than you can afford. And the
yeah,
people you
and
hire should be paid decently.
then overwork the people that you
That
do
well,
have.
and that may be. And if they don't want to do it, you find that compromise, or you just rethink the theater. There was an electrician on a chorus line when I was working on it, who at the time the theater owners were blaming all the high prices on the stagehands.
Mm,
And as someone who was in charge of the budget, that wasn't true. But that you have to find someone to blame. So the
yeah,
electrician came to me and said, I'm really tired of being blamed for this. In the old days, you gave us a living room set and you needed 3 stagehands to run the entire show. Well, now you're giving us computerized lights, computerized sets. You have 20,000 costumes, and you're telling us that it's our fault that you can't do it with 3 stagehands. You designed the show. If you give us the same set we had before, we can do it with 3 stagehands. No one's forcing you to hire more people. But once you
yeah,
hire us, we have to get a living wage. And I just thought that was a brilliant explanation. And that was what, 30 years ago? And here we are still not answering the call.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm on my soapbox for no reason, right?
But you know what? It isn't my fault. I was given those beans. You persuaded me to trade away my cow for beans. And without those beans, there'd have been no stock to get up to the giants in the first place.
You know what? I can't answer that. You actually gave the right answer. That's it, and that's why Sondheim is brilliant.
Actually, it is so
Brilliant.
fitting.
Yes,
I didn't
it
realize
really
until I
is.
read it. Especially the last part.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
without those beans, there'd have been no stock to get up to the giants in the first place.
I mean,
Yeah.
the song about blame where they're all going back and forth at each other, just brilliant
Mm-hmm.
because that's all it's about for so many people. And
Yeah.
we're all sitting here. We all want to do art. We would like to get paid for it if we're doing a good job. You
There should
know.
be a sound. There should be a soundtrack that is just those tracks, tracks like "Your Fault" and um, let's see, at the beginning of the Music Man. What is that called? What's the first song
Oh,
of
you mean
Music
the
Man?
rap song in the train?
Yeah, I
I
don't know why
just
I'm drawing a blank on the title
Yeah, me
of
too.
the
Me
song.
too.
I'm gonna
Anyway,
find it. Oh, it's just
okay.
Rock Island.
Really?
Rock Island? Yeah, something like that.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway. Anyway, well, but
Someone
now one
listening
of
will
the
be like, "You're
answers.
so wrong, actually." Huh?
Yes.
So, what are the answers? I don't.
Well, I
I
want
see.
to.
I don't know. I would say, honestly, I think, that it's possible that some arts leaders are convincing themselves that they are actually serving this proverbial community, and they may not even be surrounded by the community they claim to serve. Do you know what I mean? Like if you are, so we have a theater row, Avenue of the Arts. There's quite a few theaters on uh, the Avenue of the Arts on Broad Street. But are they all trying to claim the same neighborhood as their community? And if their community is all over the place, according to their mailing list, and like, where they send, the zip codes that they send mail to,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, it's like, for example, if somebody lives out in Media and they do come to your theater in Philadelphia, are you really serving that community in Media? Or are you just serving a couple of people who come from Media to
Well,
come see your show?
your definition of community may be very narrow in the sense that there is,
Well, I know,
could the community be
but
your state? Could the
but
community be
that's what
your
I'm saying.
region?
This is what we do as a community. We make it so broad that it's like
Mm-hmm.
it's just as lofty as our mission statements. you,
Right.
you,
Yeah.
you know, so it is kind of interesting, especially if I don't know if anybody ever asks themselves, does your neighbor know what your mission statement is? Does your
Does
neighbor know
does
why you're in
does your
business?
artistic director know what your mission statement is? And some of them were
I'm
written so
sure.
long ago that nobody bothers. You
True,
know.
but I'm gonna assume that the artistic leader knows it because it's in the elevator pitch that they
Mm-hmm.
they put to every prospective donor.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but but it's like sometimes you have to ask the question: is the art I'm presenting um, going to be of a benefit to the community that I exist in? The location, sometimes a theater could be in the middle of nowhere, or it could be in a quiet neighborhood that barely even remembers that it's there, or it
Mm-hmm.
could be downtown with 7 other theaters. So it's like, um, of course we know that our mailing list is that community, so to speak, but we only talk to a very small percentage of that community.
Well, I also read the other day when I was working up at Barrington Stage in Massachusetts, there was something we did that just gave me such pride. It was part of our educational outreach, which is a phrase that is used so loosely. But at the time, and this is a considerable amount of time ago, we had a bunch of refugees from Colombia who had moved nearby. And we're talking about dozens of families. And it's not like the current thing in New York where thousands are showing up every week. And the education department, which had been working on a number of projects, reached out to them and took their kids and helped them write shows in Spanish for themselves, for their community, and help them to acclimate to their new community. And the community responded by, even if they didn't know Spanish, by showing up. And the kids were so involved, and you didn't have to ask them to show up. They ran there after school. Their parents were thrilled. Their parents were involved. And of course, the cost of this program, we had, free space. So that was no issue. So how much are you paying for? We already have people running the education division. There really was nothing extra to spend.
Yeah.
But somebody thought of it. And the act of putting theater on, of using your creative resources for anyone who has a child, my goodness, what that does for people growing up. Whatever problems they have at home, that they have a way to talk. When they use it in prisons, it's just therapeutic. So now, I've heard the argument that the reason we put on Hello Dolly in the summer, which attracts a large audience willing to spend money, is so we can afford to do these programs. Therefore, our programming of theater, that's why it's not all original plays and trying to be, super nonprofit aim your gold. It's an argument. If you're doing all those other programs, as opposed to we have one class that runs for July, and we teach them dance. It's not with one dance teacher, and that's our entire education program, which is what most theater companies can do because that's all they know how to do, or that may be the only people in their community available to teach. I don't know. I mean, everybody's in a different situation. But what do I expect from some small town in Nebraska? I don't know what to tell them to do. I don't know what their community needs that the theater is supposed to help, other than, well, you've never been to Broadway. Here's some Broadway entertainment just so that you experience it. Maybe that's enough. The problem is when you start begging for money at the end. That's where the
Yeah.
problem is. Right?
Oh,
I don't
I
know.
didn't realize this was a trunk show.
There you go. And then, look, a lot of the money gets spent on sets and costumes, and people like that. But the truth is that may not be where your community theater or your professional theater needs to start. Maybe, one of the great things about the show Our Town, it's a ladder and some chairs, right? You still have to pay the actors, so there's still costs. But sometimes you just say the choice we make this year is we're going to have a season of 3 shows which all use a living room. So we build one set and we adapt it to each show, and that brings our costs down. And we're all only going to
Unless
use contemporary clothing. Whatever, you come up with something.
it is
Yeah.
a ladder. It's a ladder and a chair, unless you're Arden Theater Company.
Why? Tell me
because
about that.
because when Arden produced Our Town, they are right next to Christ Church, and so for the wedding, the entire audience walked over to Christ
Oh,
Church.
cool. Very
It,
cool.
yeah, it was pretty awesome. I was like, wow, this is amazing. I was like, where are we going? What's going on? And really, the I don't think the church had to do anything else. It was already ready for an audience because they have church. But it was just like, wow, wow. They could have set this up here, but we just walked over there, and that was great.
Well, and
It
again,
was
some
great.
theater companies there. I hope the theater company will forgive me. There's a theater company. I think it's in Virginia. It's experiential theater. So when they choose a show, they do it in a location in town that relates to the show. They
Mm.
did Titanic on a lake, and they sunk the cast in the lake. I mean, how
Oh,
cool
wow.
is that? On Broadway, they spent $1 million on an elevator on the stage that could make the set look like it was sinking into the stage.
Hmm.
Out in Virginia, I wonder how much they had to spend on sinking the. You have to dry their clothes. You have to make sure they can swim. You know, um, and the audience sat on the grass around the pond or the lake. Um, and by the way, and it got great reviews, so they did a good job. I don't, it's like somewhere you have to be creative instead of just give me money, give me money. Unless you have rich donors, and that's great. Nothing against that. One of the reasons Broadway is because it has become a place to see spectacles, thanks to, or not thanks to Disney. Prior to that, it was about, do we have a really great, exciting show? Um, Now everything costs a fortune because they have to have sinking Titanics on stage and whatever.
18
Yeah,
unions.
yes, and 18 unions. But again, if
300,
you,
300 staff.
I'm still, yeah, but see, again, here's the hiring problem. If you look at each union, I would think, with maybe one exception here and there, no one is going home rich.
No.
The only people going home rich are the investors and the producers, if they have a hit. If. And most shows on Broadway are not hits financially. But if you
Yeah.
have a hit, so, the cast doesn't get more money if it's a hit, and the set designer doesn't get more money if it's a hit. They get paid a salary that they can hopefully go home and pay for their apartment. So,
Yeah.
or God forbid you have a family and you want a home in the suburbs. Some of the stagehands and musicians can afford that if it's a long running hit, but it's not getting rich. So what do we do? But meanwhile, it's a spectacle. You need that many people. So if you don't put on a spectacle and just put on a good show, there is, what's the show currently on Broadway now that has a chair in the middle of the stage and almost nothing else on stage? Um, Doll's House. Jessica
Doll's
Chastain.
house. Hmm.
She sits on a chair center stage and everyone else does things around her for the whole damn play. Now, you still have to build, the floor has to be painted the correct way, and, there is a set, but
Hmm.
it's certainly cheaper than building the Titanic,
And
right?
somebody's like, what did you just put one light on her? Oh no, there are 14 lights
Thank you.
on
Exactly.
On Jessica Chastain alone. Like, we
That's
want
right.
no shadows in that shot. There will be no shadows. Yeah.
And by the way, and it's a wonderful rendition. So, I mean, you can walk
Yeah,
out of
I
the
mean,
theater
well, I
excited.
feel like I've always felt like I think we have to do a better job storytelling. It's hard. It's like a Broadway show has a commercial, and the commercial arguably isn't even enough to really tell you what the experience is going to be. And you have to be like a super fan to go follow them on social media, to go read articles, to go find interviews that they do. If it's a musical, maybe you caught NPR's Tiny Desk concert with them. But if you don't do those things, like you really don't have an in to it. So you're just like, I don't necessarily know what to expect.
Well, you're also talking
And should I
about
just wing it?
why, but that's why audience development is so tricky.
Yeah.
The percentage of people who go to see theater has not changed
Mm-hmm.
in my entire lifetime. So,
Mm.
with one exception, Disney did bring in a new family crowd so that, but basically they go to Disney. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they expect big sets. So here we go
Mm-hmm.
again, a new problem. Um, but,
Yeah.
so shows are running longer, but there aren't more people coming to them. They just come
Yeah.
more times, or we get more tourists when they show up. So,
Mm-hmm.
what do we do about that? How do we bring in a new crowd? Um, and there's great outreach. I mean, even Broadway shows invite every student in the New York City public school system is invited free of charge to see a show every year. It's a new program. Not every show makes their tickets available, but they are brought in just so they have the experience. That's helpful if you're trying to build an audience. And yet, if you look at the percentages of people who go to the theater, it hasn't changed. So basically, we're just sustaining,
Well,
even
I
by
know we
doing
said it
that.
before. I know we said it before, but if you continue to cut arts funding
Mm-hmm.
in schools, and at the highest level of government is not valuing arts and culture, or not every time they stand in front of a microphone talking about the vibrancy of the community, and how it creates the culture that makes our country so great. Like, everybody gets consumed by other things. Like,
Right.
you can go to the beach for, maybe you pay for a beach tag, but you can go there pretty much for free.
Yeah.
And
Well, and even a movie, if it wasn't for the popcorn, it may only cost you $20. But
yeah.
theater, and most people don't know this. Most Broadway shows have a $20 ticket.
Hmm.
You can figure it out if they're available, of course. But
Yeah.
why are you going to spend money advertising that if $20 doesn't cover the cost of the advertising?
True.
Right?
And
It's
yeah, and I
also a
feel
terrible seat. It's a terrible seat. That's the problem.
limited view.
Yeah,
You will
limited
be
view.
sitting. You will be straddling, and
And you need your binoculars. One of the
yeah,
great things about theater is seeing the faces of the actors, the nuances. That was what
yeah,
it's just so exciting. And then,
hmm
of course, you're sitting in the last row. You can barely understand them when they
yeah.
whisper, and you can't really see the nuances in their eyes. So, uh,
And then if you think about it, if you are thinking about that, like if you're building a new facility, you might think like maybe it should be more intimate, so that way no seat is a bad seat. And then you do that, and then you realize, well, I can't put as many people in
right.
at a time, and you've already created this mindset that if you're not in the front row, I mean, why are you
Yeah.
even in the theater? and
So,
and
yeah.
so yeah, like there are some theaters here where, if you're sitting in the balcony, that's a good seat. If you're sitting in the back row, that's also a good seat, because
There are
it
some
is a small
theaters. You're absolutely
it's a
right.
small theater.
Yeah.
Like I would say, PTC, Philadelphia Theater Company, it's a beautiful theater, and I feel like every seat in the theater is still a good seat. Like, you're still going to hear everything well, you're still going to see things, but also there are savvy people who realize, like, perhaps I don't need to sit so close. I want to have a view where I'm not watching a tennis match.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I do want to sit back a little bit and just be immersed in it, and I'm just kind of here, and it's happening, you know almost around me, or just sort of like, you know
And different kinds of shows
Yeah.
require different viewing points. There,
Yeah.
I remember I was, and this is probably going to help us slide into a new topic. I was director producer Harold Prince's assistant on a Broadway show, and one of the things, as many good things as I could say about him, and of course the entire world, he is the person who's won the most Tony Awards in history. It's like 27 Tony Awards or something. From West Side Story to Company to what on and on and on. Cabaret, they're all his. He would watch the show and direct the show from dead center in the orchestra. And we would sometimes walk up to him and have to say, would you like me to go upstairs and take a side seat in the mezzanine to tell you whether or not I can see the actor when they enter
Mm.
the stage? Because it's all the way upstage to the left. And there's a
Yeah.
scene that happens. And he would actually say, I'm not going. If you want to, you can tell me about it. And he did not care. And we couldn't move him there. So, and if he would listen to us and we came back and said, hey, we can't see anything, if it were that bad. Other directors I worked with sat all around the theater, and they asked people to sit all around the theater to make sure that viewpoints could be seen.
Yeah.
I worked on one Broadway show where the set arrived and it didn't fit on the stage. How do you do that? How do you have professionals? The director had not bothered to check with the set designer because he had moved the sight line slightly differently. And now this curved wall that was supposed to go from stage left to stage right, be the entire dimensions of the stage, but it was curved. Now the curve had changed. And so instead of rebuilding the wall, because the producer wasn't going to give him any more money, they kind of they hid them a little behind each other. Now it wasn't a smooth wall. Now it kind of looked like it was an architectural design, and they got away with it.
Ah.
Well, except the show wasn't a success, so it didn't run that long.
Yeah.
But it's like it has to do with if you're selling me a seat, I'm expecting that the price of the seat is going to let me see everybody and hear everything. So, speaking of which, and maybe I don't want to get off the topic yet. You can bring us back to it, but Hal Prince was a mentor of mine, even if I only worked with him twice. When somebody understands from their early childhood or even their early 20s, let's leave it there, and they somehow click in the American theater and they have this gut feeling about what works and why we do it, to be their intern, to be their assistant, to be their student, to be their office worker is more education than anything any college can give you. And I do want to encourage everybody to find somebody, one, they should know what they're doing, or at least you believe they do. And you should have more than one. You need to, because not everybody knows everything, obviously. But my two mentor geniuses were Hal Prince and Joe Papp. I can quote them, and they disagreed with each other on a lot of things, which was great. I watched them both make gigantic mistakes with a lot of money spent on it. Watch them make mistakes with the actors, with directors, with money, with their taste. But more times than not, they changed the face of the American theater. And they did it knowingly. They had a concept in their head. And to listen to them or to ask them a question about why did you choose that play, or why didn't you choose to do that play? Why did you turn it down? Is more education than any professor can give you. I don't care how good they are. And I just encourage people to write letters to anybody they believe might uh, be an icon for them, might be someone who they like the kind of work they do, and say, can I be your assistant? Can I be your student? Um, and if you can afford it, can I work for free for even a month? If you can afford to do that. Um, Chances are you'll get some money. Most of these people will say yes and then end up paying you some money. Anyway, do you agree? Did you have someone like that?
uh, I don't know. That I think there were people that I gravitated to. I don't necessarily think that that I can honestly say I had a mentor. I guess you you are a
Uh,
mentor. You are a mentor
I'm
for
I'm
me.
a loudmouth. I got that part of it.
No, I mean the years that we've known each other, I've learned so much from you, and I think it was just kind of like organic. And so I think it's more, at least for me, it would be in hindsight when I would say, "Oh, I
Mm-hmm.
guess that was a mentor of mine." Um, but yeah, I think you are my mentor.
Then I will apologize immediately for all for all the bad advice, not even knowing I'm giving advice. I am as that's part of the reason we do this podcast. We're both opinionated,
Yes.
and and we get that. Not a very few people will listen to us. Uh,
Well, speaking of you and when we met, we were in New York on a Saturday. We saw Lizard Boy at Theater
mm,
Row. It's very interesting musical. It was like just stuck with us on the way home. We were talking about it today. I was talking about it at Exile with the staff, and I really hope enough people find it. It's like just a simply just a beautiful piece. I just thought it
mm,
was well done.
that is
It
nice to
seemed like
hear.
no frills. It kind of felt like it was gritty, like Rent. It felt like it sort of felt like I don't know why I drew these references, but it kind of reminded me a little bit of like Hit List from Smash. Because that was like it was the gritty musical that was being worked on. And
hmm
but Lizard Boy, link in our show notes. Was a good was a good production. So I hope it has a good run while it's here off Broadway.
Again, one of the joys of living in New York City. Um, I have to say that since Lizard Boy is probably a limited run, there are so many shows on my list that I would like to see.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I can't afford the price of what's available because if it's a giant hit, I have to wait.
Yeah.
Certainly, the new show Here Lies Love, which is something I do want to see.
Mm-hmm.
For the cheapest price in the theater is $52, and it is it's the second largest theater on Broadway, so it's in the last two rows of the highest balcony. No, I'm not going to sit there. So then, if I move anywhere near that I'm willing to see, they're charging $252. I'm not going. I will wait. Maybe the
Yeah.
price will come down once they get started. That's fine. I'm not. I understand that, um, but this is to me something that I have to see at some point. They have convinced me over the past year, since it played off Broadway, that it was worth seeing. Um, anyway, and I am seeing free Shakespeare in Central Park
Mm-hmm.
uh, next week. The Delacorte Theater. Another wonderful thing that Joe Papp created 1,500 seats in outdoor theater in the middle of the park. And, if you're a donor to the Public Theater, New York Shakespeare Festival, you can get free tickets. But there are other, they don't charge. Let's put it this way. and there are lines outside the door every day, and it's like a lottery, except you have to wait there to get in. Unless
Yeah.
you're a donor. Of course, God forbid rich people don't get benefits, right? Um, but it looks exciting. They're doing Hamlet, and it's going to be an all-star cast with Kenny Leon is directing it. So it'll be interesting to see. Um, and it's a great experience. I mean, even if you hate the show, the worst that happens is you walk out, but you're outside in the beautiful weather in Central Park, and you're seeing this exciting. There are many outdoor theaters. There's one in Wisconsin. Oh, I'm going to forget the name of it. American something. It is about an hour outside of Madison, Wisconsin, in farmland, and they have an outdoor theater. They do Shakespeare every summer. They sell out. By the way, they are in the black for 20 something years in a row. A
Wow.
nonprofit that doesn't have to beg for money.
Hmm.
So that's, again, going back to our original conversation, it is doable. How do we learn lessons from them? I remember talking to at the time, the producing artistic director who has retired. And he said, we tried to bring our ideas to other theater companies at certain conferences. They didn't want to
Mm-hmm.
listen. And wait a minute, you're a success in your nonprofit. And they don't only do Shakespeare, by the way. They do other new shows that may be classically oriented. They have
Yeah.
a reason, but they have a small 200-seat indoor theater with all the modern amenities, as well as an outdoor theater
Yeah.
with bugs. They hand out bug spray, by the way, free of charge.
Oh.
The audience goes in there. It's environmentally friendly. They're careful,
Come for
but
the show, stay for
yeah,
the bug
for the
spray.
bugs on the bug spray. Yeah, I mean, it was fascinating. I was there. The visit was worth it, and yet just don't understand why people aren't willing to learn from each other. And there is an
Oh.
organization called Theater Communication Group, which
Hmm.
is an association of all the nonprofits across the country, if they want to be a member. And they try to
Yeah.
educate each other. But again, ego gets in the way. No, this is my theater. I'm running it my way. What am I going to do? Anyway, what were you going to say, Darnell?
I was going to say. I was going to say that in Here Lies Love, two uh, two two people in Here Lies Love, Philadelphia Claims is
Yeah,
there.
right.
That is Conrad
Yay,
Rigamora
Philly.
and Billy Bustamante.
Good to
Billy
know.
Bustamante is associate director, and Conrad Rigamora from How to Get Away with Murder, from Fire Island
Mm,
movie last year. Just amazing. Very happy.
excellent.
I'm
Yay,
looking
Philly.
forward to seeing this as well. Yeah.
Yeah, well, hopefully, I hate to say it, but again, I long for the days where there was a thing called preview prices, where before the show had an official opening night to get audiences in, they'd reduce the prices of the theater tickets
Hmm.
because they're saying, "Hey, you're not seeing the finished product. We're still working on it." Now it's, "Hey, you want to see our show, whatever shape it's in? We know you're willing to pay top price because you have before."
Mm.
So we're going to charge you the full price.
Since you had mentioned TCG, Theater Communications Group,
Mm-hmm.
there's a couple of things that they do that is kind of interesting. Like, I understand the situation, but, you know, one of the things we really looked forward to was getting a copy of American Theater.
Yes.
And
Great
American
magazine.
Theater has been digital since June of 2020. And I'm not sure that it's back. I don't think it's back yet.
It is. No, oh, you mean I get it still.
I mean, digital? I mean,
Yeah, I get
print.
it. I get it digitally. Yeah.
But you get it. But do you get it print? There's no print
No, I don't
edition.
try. No, I no print
Yeah.
edition.
So we needed the
Well,
print
actually,
edition.
you know what? I'm not sure because I haven't been to the theater bookstore here in New York recently, and that's where it would be sold. If
Yeah.
and I haven't been there, I'll look the next time I go.
Their website says we don't know yet what the future of the print edition of American theater will be, but we will let current members and the field
Hmm.
at large know when we do.
It's such a relevant magazine. They really do a great job. There's
It is.
really important info in there, and most of it's interesting. It's not just general, pop star information. This theater or that theater.
I feel
There's
I, I feel like in a way that it's a sign that things haven't really bounced back. Like they can't produce that.
mm,
When companies renew their membership, they still have the option of doing a discounted membership renewal. It's like, look, we know things are tough. It's like we're just trying to stay afloat too, and I feel like there is something about. Like I know it is a fine line. It's a very fine line to be like, how do you present confidence but also be aware of what's going on, you know? And some of these things are like visuals that things have
mhm.
not gotten back to normal.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so I always think about that, and I'm just like, well, I don't fault any company for thinking like we have a lot of companies who are thinking about uh, whether they should do less productions next year because there's still a bit of uncertainty, or maybe they are in a financial hole they're trying to make up with at the end of the fiscal year or the beginning of the next year, and then trying to like at least salvage a season out
Well,
of like fixing
and
the
by the
stuff in
way,
the past.
I'm aware of at least 8 companies that have some of which have reduced their next season by half. So
Mm-hmm.
if they were doing 6 shows, they're doing 3, and they're still selling a subscription ticket. My
Yeah.
argument, and by the way, let's be honest here, theater and the arts need to be subsidized under the current conditions that our society puts them in. We
Yeah.
need the government, we need donors, help. I would never discourage anybody from doing it.
I'm
As much
sure
as I yell at it, but and
I'm
let me
sure
you go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I'm sure $1 billion could go a long way in the country, the
Yeah,
country at
maybe.
large.
Yeah, well, chances are, it's not going to happen. We have a House
We
of
waste that. We
Representatives.
waste that on gas cans for the for
Yeah,
the military.
but
You know?
here's the problem: some of them deserve a lot, and of course, there is there is federal grants to theater companies. They
Hmm.
go to the largest, most successful ones who do need the money, and they count
Mm.
on the money. But it doesn't help someone who's trying to, in their little town in Nebraska, get something started. It
Yeah.
does not help them. And then you have to be an expert at writing grant proposals. And people, and forgive me, Nebraska, nothing against you, but in a little town in Nebraska, you may not have someone who can write that grant proposal in a way that will enter the thinking of those people making the decisions in Washington, D.C. or in your state. But let me
Yeah.
move on. My thing is, if you're going to take something away from me, you want me as a subscriber, you want me as a loyal fan to your theater company. If you take something away, tell me you've been thinking about something you can give me.
Mm.
That doesn't mean it has to be financial. I'm not asking for potato chips free of charge during intermission, although, hey, better than nothing. It can be a gimmick. It can be a talk back, or maybe, you know what? We're doing a cabaret night where a famous singer from Philadelphia is going to just come here and give us a 1 hour cabaret show. And for all of our subscribers, you get to come for free because it costs us next to nothing to have that one night. You give something back instead of just taking something away. And that is on the brain of the artistic director who has to say, which of these things can we do financially and that will help our community or add to, help's the wrong word, add to our community rather than help.
Yeah.
We can't solve homelessness, but we can say we are going to aid or add something to the life quality of our community. So
Wouldn't it be
that's my
fun?
argument.
Wouldn't it be fun if the production of Shucked, the new musical comedy,
Right.
and Messy gave everyone popcorn?
Yes.
Free popcorn.
But you know something? It's happened. I'm just trying I wish I can think of where I went.
Come for the
I've
show, stay for the popcorn.
I have gone
Nobody.
to shows which have done exactly that. They changed their theater setting. They changed the environment to like it was a beer hall, and you know they may have charged for the beer, but they gave out the free popcorn or nuts or beer nuts or something. But they set it out as part of the event, and they built it into their budget. But you know the old, again, we come back to Sondheim and Gypsy. You gotta have a gimmick, right? Nothing wrong with that if you're trying to attract theater folk to what will hopefully be a great artistic experience that may change their life. You want to do both. You want to entertain and educate and move people. If your artistic director of any theater is not trying to think of that, then that's it.
And,
all right, and on that note,
that's a good place to end. So, what did we learn? June 30th is an arbitrary number, arbitrary date. And with that said, please visit theaterexile.org/donate to make your contribution before the end of this fiscal year.
And
no
as an
amount is
outsider-
too large.
right.
No
And
amount is too large. I'm telling
as
you.
an outsider,
no amount is too large.
Theater Exile is worth saving.
Theater Exile is, we are tired of being the best kept secret. And so that's why we need your support.
Right.
We have been quietly, not so quietly, producing great theater for 26 seasons, and we ain't stopping. So
there you go.
But also, go see Lizard Boy. Go see Here Lies Love. You know, if you were just near a theater in your town, just go.
And Kimberly Akimbo, it won the best musical. Still worth it. It's worth seeing. It's a small musical with a great deal of heart.
Yeah. And also
it's very funny.
Before it closes, go see Fat Ham. Go see Fat Ham. It's fun. Yes. Fun. That's the business of theater, a working title. I'm Darnell Radford.
I'm Mitch Weiss.
And we
also let me sell. I still have a book out there called "The Business of Broadway." So pick that up on Amazon and anywhere else books are sold.
Yeah, go take a picture of it at the Bookworm at the Drama Bookshop. Well, they did move around the Bookworm a little bit, but you're still prominently placed in the Bookworm.
Hallelujah.
Yeah.
Hallelujah.
All right, so we'll see you at the theater.
Take care.
Thank you for listening. Tune in next time for another episode of The Business of Theater, a working title, with Darnell Radford and Mitch Weiss. Subscribe to the podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. Share the podcast with a friend, colleague, or give us some social media love. This podcast is an Emory production. Visit us online at em3ry.com/TBOT. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at em3ryotm.